Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Kayla, and you're listening to the Cheat Sheet Speech podcast, where two pediatric speech language pathologists talk about how to build communication in your everyday routine.
Yes, but before we dive in, just a quick reminder that this podcast is for educational purposes only, does not constitute medical advice. If you have concerns about your child's speech and or language, we recommend that you seek an evaluation from a pediatric speech language pathologist that is licensed in your state.
All right, Carrie, what are we chatting about today?
Today, we're talking about one of those big toddler milestones that can bring a lot of questions, potty training, but specifically how communication plays a big role in that process.
When parents say, my toddler just isn't getting potty training, we as speech language pathologists first look at language comprehension.
Yes, because potty training isn't just about that physical readiness, it's also about language and understanding routines.
Exactly. Children need to understand what is happening, what to do, and how to express their needs. So, how do we know if our toddler is ready for potty training?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's just start with laying the groundwork for what skills are involved in that foundation there. So, before potty training even begins, a child should understand when they have gone to the bathroom, so when they've gone in their diaper. So, this might look like communicating to you by crying or gesturing, using words, signs, or a speech generating device just to indicate that they have gone in their diaper. So they're understanding that I went to the bathroom or I feel wet and there's a change there.
Right. And that understanding piece is kind of integrated with also that expression piece because they're starting to indicate to you when they have to go potty. But then it's also that comprehension piece of what's going to happen when they do go on the potty, understanding like being wet, that's what is going to happen on the potty, going to the bathroom.
Right, right. And so as your child is starting to develop that language going around the bathroom, one thing that you can do as the parent or caregiver is just start modeling consistent language that corresponds with that routine. So say, I'm going potty or diaper change every time it happens. So that can help just build understanding around what's going on in that routine and also just give them a way to indicate what's happening. If they're not using that specific language yet, you're modeling that language for them. So if that's something that they end up choosing later, they have that language model in place.
Yeah, and you can do this like very early on, right? Like if you're observing your child going to the bathroom while you're playing with them, then you're making that poop face, right? Then you can model like I'm going potty at that time because then it's really great. You're actually just pairing the exact phrase at that moment when it's happening long before you're actually like introducing the physical potty piece of it.
Right, which will definitely help reduce that pressure in the moment and just give them, like we said, that vocabulary that they might not need at that moment, but when they're ready, can use later and they're kind of already prepared for that. But I like that idea of modeling some like nouns and action words. So you could provide that phrase, but you can also use nouns like potty, toilet, underwear, sink, and then also modeling some of those actions: sit, flush, change, wash, go, wipe. There's so much language that goes into potty training. So helping model that language will reduce the pressure around the potty and just make them feel more comfortable with what's going on. There's a lot that goes into potty training.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like understand, like wipe is kind of a novel word, very much in that it fits that concept particularly. So, or context particularly. So even introducing that idea of wipe somewhere else too, or if you're like practicing on baby dolls, using the vocabulary on a baby doll just to be able to give more understanding than in the moment. Again, they will be able to better understand that vocabulary and it takes the pressure off that situation. Once they kind of know these like single words, nouns and actions, then you can also expand on it using that vocabulary. So like, you're sitting on the potty, let's flush the toilet. These are short, clear phrases that give context to what's happening, and then it pairs it with the vocabulary that you're introducing.
Yeah, and we're going to dive a little bit later into more about those concise phrases. So it's definitely good to get some of those phrases down, and then just consistently model them. So just remember too that keep it positive, avoid shaming and negative reactions if there is an accident. So instead, keep your language like, oops, you're wet, let's try again next time, or, oh, you're wet, we're going to change you. And so then once they start understanding that language around potty time, you're just building that framework for them to have that independence later on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the other thing is that going to the bathroom includes a series of sequence steps. So that can be a big cognitive load for a little one. If you think about it, you have to pull down your pants, sit on the potty, wipe, flush, wash hands. Lot of steps for toddlers in around like when we're used to giving like 2-step directions.
Right. And I think this kind of goes back into what you were saying. There's that physical readiness and also that cognitive or like language readiness as well. So your child might not be ready for all of those steps. So trying to adapt and adjust based on your child's cognitive load. And that might just be providing more supports and then reducing those supports as they become more independent. But one way you can do that is through visual support. So that's a great support strategy for your toddler. A lot of my daycares and preschools have visuals at school, and it just has the sequence of the steps of the bathroom. So then they can see, okay, what do I do next? I pull up my pants, then I flush the toilet, and then I have to go wash my hands. And usually there's like a wash your hands sequencing on the mirror above the sink as well that they can follow. And it just helps build that independence, but just that comfortability of, okay, what's next? I can see what's going to happen next.
Right. Yeah. That it's not all on them to have to know what's going to come next. How do you think the visual supports help reduce the cognitive load?
Yeah. So like I kind of mentioned before, but that cognitive load can be very difficult for children, especially if they're holding that cognitive load while doing a physical activity. So they have to physically go to the bathroom independently, which is different, and also try to remember these steps of going to the bathroom. So it was kind of just like driving while trying to tell a story to someone. It can be difficult to keep your thoughts straight while also, physically navigating the road. So taking that language and cognitive pressure out by providing a visual will help reduce that pressure, and they can focus more on the physical aspect of going to the bathroom to help them be more successful.
Yeah, I love that analogy, especially like driving somewhere new. You're trying to talk to someone in the car at the same time. It's a lot to try to do all at once. And that's what it is for them. It's a new set of sequences to carry out while also understanding all of the vocabulary surrounding it. Creating a supportive environment while the skills are developing is so key. What else would you recommend to have more support around communication with potty training?
Yeah, so I like that we've touched on like adding those visuals to help support sequencing, and then also using that consistent language to help build their vocabulary. Another great way to support that communication is through a social story. So at this stage, it could be just a short personalized book that walks through what's happening at potty time. That would just reduce anxiety and help with that predictability of what is coming next. They can see it through a story and something they can connect with.
Yeah, I recommend honestly using the social stories way before you're even introducing the potty. This way you can like read the books at bedtime. Your child's again getting more familiar with the sequence of steps without any pressure. And then they can comprehend it when they go into that potty training phase.
Right. That gives you the chance to introduce the vocabulary and sequences involved in going to the bathroom. And then you can use the book later to support your child as they're potty training. So they're familiar with it. And then you can kind of use it to help support across when you actually are potty training.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you're saying, refer back to the story. So like if you had like Daniel Tiger's potty book, and then you would talk about like, oh, when Daniel Tiger did this on the potty, like you're doing that too. And then it can just be like more positive experience for them and validation and also kind of that connection comprehension piece too.
Yeah, right. They're connecting to a character that they, might be excited about. So like, oh, me too. Like I'm awesome, just like Daniel Tiger. So it just creates that positivity. So after the child has figured out the steps of going potty, I think just the hardest part is having the child advocate for themselves that they need to use the bathroom. And I actually find this probably more difficult in the daycare setting that I work at. Sometimes the kiddo will be going potty at home. We got it down. And that just like does not translate to school. I actually just had a teacher talking to me about this week. But can you talk a little bit about maybe why that is?
Yeah, I see this all the time as well. See it in the clinic too. And I just think it's because there's like an element of maybe like anxiety or nervousness about maybe not feeling confident and knowing all of the steps yet, or that I even have to go. And then also like not wanting to miss out on an experience that they are like, if they're currently playing, not wanting to miss out on that.
Yeah. I think the FOMO is real, especially at school. A lot of the times the kids just don't want to stop their current activity to go potty. And we have to think that going to the bathroom is a transition. So we've talked about in a previous podcast, we have a whole podcast on transitions. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely recommend checking that out. It's a good one. But transitions can be difficult for most people and a lot of our little ones. So by avoiding going to the potty, they're just avoiding making that transition. It's one less transition throughout their day.
Right. It's like almost initiating a transition, which is a lot to ask, right? And I know when I was little, I was always intimidated to like go up to the teacher and ask them and say like, I need to go potty. So it also is that element of anxiety too.
Yeah, no, I definitely still do that to this day. Like if I'm in a conference or something, it's an awkward thing to be like, I have to go to the bathroom. So actually, this teacher that had kind of asked me about some bathroom tips, I recently suggested putting a sticker on the outside of the door and model, I need to go potty. So I said, as the teacher, like even if you're walking kids into the bathroom, you would touch the sticker and say, I need to go potty before entering the bathroom. This leans back into how we were saying to use those phrases earlier in your home when you're like talking about potty training, but something teachers can also do is providing that consistent language for the child to use. And then it also just gives another way for the child to advocate for themselves. Something I mentioned to this teacher was even if a kiddo just touches that potty sticker, that is communication. So let's say you're at circle time, it's super quiet, they get up, touch the potty sticker, that's telling you that they need to go potty. Great. Like that's a way for them to communicate. Just gives another mode to communicate instead of having to use that expressive language. If that's something that seems too difficult at that time, they can communicate in another way, which is also awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Giving multiple modes of communication is great. And then also just like having the teacher model. Sometimes I have teachers ask the kid, do you need to go potty? And then the child says no. Right. And then they don't get to go potty. So you just don't ask the question if that's not how you want it to go.
Right.
And they're working on their advocacy. Like they might think that like it's an inconvenience almost to have to go. So they might want to comply and just say, no, like I'm good. So a different way to phrase that would be like just modeling first potty, then play with trains. This way they can consistently understand the routine and you're breaking it down more simply for them of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit later about some more specific tips with that. But yeah, you definitely just don't want to ask a question that you don't want the answer to. And like you said, it just, on the one hand, like we don't want them to comply. And on the other hand, we don't want to force someone to go potty after they just told us no. So that's not really fair either. We want them to go potty when they feel comfortable and we want to, make that an easier transition for them. So just to wrap up, when you're getting ready for that potty training, model consistently when your child has gone to the bathroom in their pants. Set a visual schedule up in the bathroom just to help them sequence those steps, and use that concise language during potty opportunities, such as first potty, then we'll go outside.
Yes, and one more thing actually I just thought of. In the beginning, when a kid is just learning to go potty or practicing, it can also be kind of helpful to have like toys in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are like stretchy, fidget, spin, bubble, something that you can hold on to on the toilet, which is going to just like help reduce pressure around potty time.
Yeah, I do like that, especially if you're trying to go number 2. That time period can feel a little bit longer, and we have talked in previous episodes about time concepts. Still, kids are still building their attention and concept of time. So that waiting period can feel really long for them, especially if they left playtime to go to the bathroom. So let's make the bathroom a positive space. We want to help reduce that pressure around going to the bathroom. So why not throw some toys in there?
I love that.
Alrighty, are we ready for our speech spotlight?
Let's do it. Okay, so our speech spotlight, we're going to continue talking about potty training.
It's a big topic.
Yes, but we're going to talk about it through an article that I saw from Nationwide Children's, and it says 6 things every parent should know about potty training.
Okay, awesome. So this article states that children typically begin this toilet training, potty training between 18 and 24 months, and then are toilet trained by 24 to 36 months, so around 3 years old.
Yes, and then the article also talks about potty training readiness, which I think is very important to note. So kind of touched on this with the comprehension readiness, but if your child is between the ages of 18 and 36 months, that's kind of just when you can start looking for those readiness signs.
Right. So within that range, maybe trying to identify some more of those signs. So that could be being curious about others going to the bathroom, like following you to the bathroom, interested in sitting on the toilet. Like you go to the bathroom, they're like, I want to sit on the toilet. Starting to communicate that they have to go potty, or just being able to sit and like take their pants on and off by themselves kind of shows us that they're ready for that next step.
Yes, it's important that if your child is on the younger side of this age range, that they may not be ready for potty training, and that is totally okay. You can still, like we mentioned before, talk about going to the potty, and then just like waiting for your child to be ready will reduce the pressure and just give them more of an understanding of what to expect and not feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, so this article provides some suggestions for parents when it comes to supporting successful potty training. So why don't we just walk through these suggestions, and then we can explain kind of the rationale behind them, and then provide some tips for implementing some of these suggestions in our everyday potty training activities.
Awesome. Okay, so thinking about the first suggestion says, highlight the positives. So we mentioned in our chatter, but keeping potty training very positive will just help that child feel confident and that they can advocate for themselves. It's going to reduce the pressure, and it's not going to feel like they're messing up.
Yeah, this could look like saying, I like how you told me you had to go potty, or you were sitting on the potty, flushed and washed your hands. That was so independent. I'm proud of you for trying, or it's okay, you're wet. We'll try again later, try again another time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And then next, the article says to give them choices. Mm-hmm. They refer to choices when picking out like a child toilet, or if you decided to implement some sort of a reward system.
Right. Yeah. So we love choices as SLPs just because sometimes a child's in a situation where they may not have a lot of control. So especially in this potty training instance, there's not really a choice of going to the bathroom on the potty. It's more of a societal expectation to go to the bathroom on the potty. So there's just not a lot of control there. So what are some choices that we could implement during potty training to just help build their control autonomy in this unpredictable environment?
Yeah, I like the idea from the article of giving the choice of like which toilet seat they could pick out if they like go to
Mm-hmm.
the store and pick out a cool toilet seat. You could also, we've talked about this in like the restaurant training one, but having like a bathroom bag of toys that they can use on the potty or have in the bathroom with them. Also, you mentioned before, like having stickers for at the end of going to the bathroom. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a great idea. And making those choices between them is just going to give them a lot more autonomy.
Yeah, exactly. Because then when they go potty, they can make a choice about like which toy they want or which sticker they want. And it also will kind of bring a little bit of awareness about we're going to start going on the potty because we're
Mm-hmm.
picking out our potty basket toys. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're kind of talking about it, introducing it, and just getting excited about it, making it
Yeah.
positive. Those are great ideas. So the next suggestion that the article has that we didn't really talk about yet was just support those feet. So
Mm-hmm.
having your feet up in a higher position or more of a squatting position, that can help just with bowel movements. But we've also talked about in previous episodes, I do think it was also the restaurant episode, about having your feet touch the floor because that can support regulation. So we
Mm-hmm.
want our body to feel the most regulated because that will help reduce that pressure around going to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, that's the physical aspect of
Yeah.
going to the bathroom. So, trying to find ways to support the bowel movement and the regulation at the same time. Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion from the article. You might have to ask, like, if your kid's in daycare, if they have like a footstool
Mm-hmm.
to support your child. That's just something I would follow up with them about if you're trying to carry it over to daycare as well. Number 4 from the article was schedule toilet sits. So
Okay.
they
Yeah.
recommend 3 to 5 minute sits because it gives the child enough time to go, but then also doesn't make them feel like they are sitting on the toilet all day long.
Right. Yeah. That's something we didn't really dive into earlier in the chatter, but they suggested to schedule those sits around the bowel movements. So in the morning, before bed, and then about 10 to 20 minutes after a meal. And they also recommended to avoid saying like go pee or poop in the potty and rather just say like tell the child time to sit on the potty, just keeping that
Mm-hmm.
language direct and concise.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just telling the child to go potty may say that they don't have to go, and then it's going to increase frustration if they feel like they don't have to go. So you're making it more neutral by using that language of like, go sit on the potty, because that is what you know that they will be sitting. Kind of saves you from it's almost like that no question, like answering no to a
Right.
question. Um, and then I would also pair the sits with like a visual timer and maybe one of the toys from the baskets so that you can help with wait time. We've talked about wait time before. Waiting can be really tricky. So just having some other more supportive communicative aspects to help them wait will be just very helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The next point that the article suggests is to just reduce distractions. So we talked about FOMO, especially at preschool or daycare. And a lot of times children have more accidents because they don't want to miss out on something fun like playtime. So this article recommends scheduling those sits before starting a play, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is a good idea. So if you can schedule, you eat, maybe you're chill for like 10, 20 minutes at the table, and then try to go to the bathroom before you go outside. However, it doesn't always happen that way.
No, that's like a perfect world for sure. Of course, right? Once they like are going potty, it really is tricky to always predict when it's going to happen. I like the idea of that so you're not pulling them away from like maybe a more preferred situation. But in those situations where it is not possible, I like to I recommend telling whatever it is to like freeze or to
Mm,
wait. So you could like if you're playing with Legos, like freeze, don't fall, I'll be right back, and then go to the potty and make it more fun. This way they feel like they have also a little bit more control over the situation of like they're nothing's going to happen when they're gone.
yeah. Me as the speech language pathologist who's often in those sessions when kids are still working on potty training. So we'll be playing and then it's time to go potty and the parent takes them to go potty, because we want to keep up with that routine, like I always say, like, I'm going to freeze and then just like stay in that same position, or like, I'm not going to like touch anything. We're like, because I think they're also very afraid that I'm going to play with the toys while they're in the bathroom. And I'm like, I will not touch anything. Nothing's going to change. It'll be here when you're back. Don't worry. So I love that. The next tip that they offer is just reward that positive toileting. So this is going to look different for every child, and also just your family model as well. So it could look like just implementing a high five after we said we had to go potty, or, we did go potty. Some children might benefit from just a small toy or sticker when they tell you they have to go potty or they've gone potty already. So just some positivity of like, you did it. That's awesome. Love that independence there.
Right, yeah, and just keeping, if you do decide to do some sort of a reward system, keeping it small, just to like help with the transition to like when they do start independently going to the potty later on. They're not always going to have a reward when they go other places, right?
Right.
Number 7 was encourage the toilet sits and not encouraging staying accident free.
Right.
I like this because sometimes at school, teachers will say like there were 0 accidents today, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the child did like the potty training aspects of it. That could really just more mean that the child held it in all day. So again, choosing your language carefully so that you're encouraging those toilet sits instead.
Right. It's not functional if they just hold it and have no accidents or whatever, just hold their potty all day. We don't want that. That's super uncomfortable. So just like you said, shift your language to encourage the child to ask to go potty or try on the potty. So that could be, I like that you told me you had to go potty, or I love the way we're sitting on the potty and trying. So yeah, I think that making sure it's more about trying and building that independence around going to the bathroom versus having no accidents, right? The goal is not no accidents. The goal is to go potty independently. All right. So what was our last tip from the article?
Yes, let's see. The last tip says handling setbacks during potty training. So we hear this from parents all the time. If a child is sick, that might lead to potty training setbacks, right? Or if you go to someone like a family member's house for the weekend, routine looks different, might cause some setbacks. Yeah, like these changes in environments, but that is totally okay. Again, keep the language positive because a lot of those things are really out of their control.
Right.
So it's not a reflection on them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just that, like, it's okay. It's just a setback. It's not a restart. So just being prepared that it will be a roller coaster. There are going to be ups and downs, and it's not going to look perfect. And just being aware that those are potential setbacks, like big changes or, illnesses that could cause a setback. I think it's just something parents may not know. So that's awesome. Well, we're going to keep in this train of potty training. So we're going to jump on over to our communication countdown. And today's communication countdown is our top 5 potty time helpers.
All right, let's hear our top 5 potty time helpers.
Awesome. So number 1, we have our Elmo coloring and sticker books. There's so many sticker books on Amazon. There's like construction ones, unicorn ones. I did like this Elmo one because it does have coloring, so you can color the bathroom as well. So it just kind of brings that visual and activity. And then it also just has the stickers. So when you go to the bathroom, I think there's specific ones for like if you asked to go potty or if you went potty type stickers. Number 2 is that pull fidget toy. So this is just an easy grab and go toy that you can put in your bathroom basket and you can pull it, and it will also help with regulation as well.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. That one's good for just like the physical aspect of potty time.
Yeah. You can also do bubbles too. That's another easy activity on the toilet. It can also help with that regulation piece. So Number 3, we talked about it earlier, you referred to it, was the Daniel Tiger Potty Time book. This is a great book because it can just give you that connection to what's going to happen in the potty, and he's a little scared, then he goes. It's awesome. Love Daniel Tiger. Next up is a rainbow timer. So this will help with those sits and just providing a visual aspect for that 3 to 5 minutes. If you're trying to do those longer sits, they can watch it on the rainbow timer. So linked that on there. And then last, I just linked a Paw Patrol footstool because why not? We love Paw Patrol. It's exciting. So, just a great way to kind of, if you're starting potty training, you can look at that one or other ones and kind of pick out one to get your child excited.
Awesome. Great list. That wraps up our communication countdown and our whole podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. Like, subscribe, follow us for more.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.